podcast is BYOT. Bring your own tacos.
Dick swinging.
You're listening to American Slacker Podcast.
We can say fuck.
With Matthew Gertz and Jesse Landers.
I don't care, I've been smoking, this is cool.
That's a decent amount of sausage.
This man needs a doctor!
Yeah, I just hope they're tasty.
What's up with these clowns, man?
Cut the lights and went through people's pockets.
Don't you point that at each other.
Let them smoke a little. You need to step it up to that point. We're not gonna lead with the.
We're not gonna lead with that.
Welcome to an MMA update of American Slacker. As always, I'm Matt.
And I'm Jesse, and today we have our good friend Jordan River from the GrowCast podcast.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for joining us, man.
We're all big fans of MMA, and there's a lot of stuff that's been going down recently.
Oh, man. UFC 229, everybody's fresh off that. Obviously, there's a lot of drama in the news from it. You could say it did well for their numbers, though, man. 2.4 million in sale. That's a new record for them. It's crazy. That's a lot of fucking sales. And to imagine the millions of streams out there that didn't even count for.
That's what I was thinking, too.
They're getting robbed, man.
It would have been even more record-breaking than... and I guess that's like a little caveat, a little asterisk to all those stats, too.
Yeah. Well, it was a hell of a card, man, all the way through, leading up to that main event that caused, all the news. I really enjoyed the whole card all the way through. It started out with a great fight. The women in the strawweight I feel like that division's just stacked right now. It's getting good, the women's divisions, but they're not really utilizing them on the main cards anymore like they were with Ronda. Once she was done, it started simmering down. And Cyborg too is simmering down.
All male main event cards in the past few months here. You're right. And the women's strawweight division, the talent level, the average talent level, has just been moving exponentially. I mean, Ronda Rousey's a perfect example. If you think, I play poker and it's kind of similar. If you think you can take a couple months off and do a couple movies while everyone else is training, you got another thing.
Man. And that was really her demise. A lot of people just don't realize she just dove into that fucking persona of being famous on all ends instead of just concentrating on her fight career. And it just wore too thin.
The level of her judo competition compared to the people she was fighting when she first entered MMA, and then the insane leap that occurred when she was, movies and stuff. It's just astronomically high.
Yeah. Coming back to Holly Holmes, just being a fucking devastator and not expecting that, and everything from there. Amanda Nunes.
A knockout artist outside of the UFC, she just needed to establish herself in the MMA game and learn stuffing takedowns and all that. And then she steps in front of Ronda and it's just no contest.
Yeah. Total difference.
After that, it's the same exact thing, but even on a higher scale. It's just the skill level is working. Here's a perfect example. The way Khabib was wrapping the legs, and obviously Joe Rogan was pointing it out, so everyone knows this. This isn't anything special. Watch for everyone to be doing that, not in the next year, in the next 2 months, maybe even just next coming UFC. Everyone is going to be doing that move. That's how fast this shit works.
Oh, yeah. All the coaches are seeing that shit, and they're saying, we're going to work on this tomorrow in the gym. They're getting their fighters in on that too. They're just they're focusing on the greats. In Khabib, without a doubt, now 27-0. It's just there's a reason to study that man. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But Michelle Waterson versus Felice Herrig was a brawl, man, and that's one thing I like about the women fights. I feel like the men, you get a lot of fights that are just they're standoffs. The slow game, a lot of just standoff. A jab here, jab there, whatever. But the women, I just feel like overall majority is just always a fucking brawl to the end. And I think this fight was an example of that. These guys, Michelle and Felice just fucking brawled the whole way through. There was elbows coming from the bottom when Felice was on top. It's just, I thought this was a great fight. It went all the way to the decision. And I think it was pretty close, really. It could have went either way, but, obviously Michelle had the dominant strikes in the end. And I'm interested to see where she goes with her career now in the strawweight division.
Yeah, I love Michelle Waterson. She's one of my favorite female fighters, and she's been around the block. A lot of people don't know of her experienced career in Invicta. I believe she was champ, I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's one of the ones that stuck around. A lot of these fighters don't survive. You know, Beck Rollins, she's an old school girl. She dropped off, went to bare knuckle boxing because she couldn't hack it with the multi-dimensional.
She's older too, right?
That's true too. That's true as well. But Waterson isn't exactly a young buck either, but she kept up with it. She's managed to stick around really well.
Oh man, yeah, and I think she's gonna make a run coming up, and I'm hoping they actually start to utilize the fights and actually put the women on the cards more, instead of shifting them on the undercards and fight nights and all that.
Looking down on it too. There's such a great women's movement going on right now. They should be pumping that up. They should be looking to make stars out of these up and comers. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, yeah.
Watterson, always respectable. Greatest nickname ever in the female strawweight, Karate Hottie. That's just fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah, so true. Yeah. Hell yeah, man. You hear that name and you gotta be like, all right, how hot is she? And you gotta look it up. Like I feel like it's an instant draw.
How much karate does she know?
Let me see this hottie doing karate. I'll be the judge. But like in response, like moving along, like to the next fight, I feel like a lot of the other divisions is in the men's league, it's just kind of stretched thin right now. The heavyweight division, I feel like, is stretched thin. Outside of obviously now DC and Stipe, Francis Ngannou put himself way down immediately after getting the fear of the fist put in him by Stipe. Like he changed to be a completely different animal after that fight. He just was afraid to get hit. And it was just amazing to see a monster turn into like a cowering giant after that. Yeah. And
still very experienced is the bottom line. Not too long ago, he was back in Cameroon mining sand.
Dude.
So I think there's a big mental game that needs to occur with Francis. But I
didn't know you could mine sand.
Oh, dude, he comes from the dangerous parts.
I think that will occur. I think that some people are never the same after certain losses. I don't think that's the case with Francis. I certainly hope not.
You think he's going to actually be able to rebound from that loss and really just concentrate and focus through to what his ultimate strategy needs to be as a fighter?
I think that his flaw is a mental one, and mental flaws can often be remedied by good coaches. That's what I think. So yes, I think it's possible, and I hope so.
I hope he's a hell of a specimen when it comes to fighting. He just has so much potential. The pure speed and strength mixture. It's everything that Brock Lesnar wasn't. I feel like he's like Brock Lesnar, but he can move and has the ability to gain skill in more than just wrestling.
Has he ever been popped, Francis? I don't think.
No.
Did he get popped for years?
No, and he might, dude. Honestly, from the lifestyle he comes from, he might be natural, dude.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think that he deserves a lot of credit, like you were saying.
Yeah. I'm definitely curious to see his career coming up, man. I would have thought he would be the one to get another shot at the title before Derek Lewis, but I'm not going to cut Derek Lewis short because he's got that fucking hand. That right hand again surprised us at 229, and.
Sometimes the right hand can carry you to the championship, but rarely does it keep you there, man.
Exactly. Especially heavyweight. Especially heavyweight. The highest defense, Stipe, 2 fucking title defenses is the number 1 in history. Like, holy shit, man. But, maybe, I don't know, man. Derek Lewis, he got lucky with Alexander. Volkov was beating him the whole fucking match. Like, I couldn't believe Derek lasted as long as he did. And then out of nowhere, man, that right hand, he had clipped him a couple times throughout, but he finally fucking connected and just dropped him.
Now, do you think that, Joe Rogan was saying, he got sloppy, there's no reason to do that. Wait, was that him who said that, or someone I was sitting with when it? Anyways, there were people debating whether or not Volkov should even been in there. He could have been dancing around. There was only less than a minute to go. He could have danced his way out of that. Do you think that he was trying to make a statement and that's why he lost the fight? Because to me, it didn't really look that way. I think he just kind of was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't think he was over aggressive and then got caught for no reason necessarily.
Now I feel like I need to rewatch that, but at the initial time of watching that fight, I only watched it once. I didn't feel that, I just felt like he was confident, he had the decision, and maybe he was like, you know what, maybe I can get a finish instead of a decision. Let me try. He might have.
I agree that if he would have danced around for the rest of the fight, he would have won.
Without a doubt, man. He had it without any any problem. He had to win by decision at that moment, and then just
The balance, you know.
yeah, man. He just
Especially when a win doesn't give you necessarily a great jump in the ratings, and dancing around might have the fans react in a negative way, and that's worse for you now than anything because ratings mean nothing, and it's all about what the fans think and how good you're trash talking.
oh hell yeah, man. Especially the fans get pissed, like that, like Francis Ngannou's first fight after the loss of Stipe. The ref was like, come on guys, let's fight, let's do this, and fucking
You do it, man. Fuck that.
He's like, fuck, do you know how hard this guy hits?
You fight Stipe.
I'm glad to see,
I guess I don't know. Sorry, go on.
Oh, no. I was just going to say I'm glad to see, Derek Lewis is getting a chance here. But, the fight before he fought Volkov was very disappointing. It was very fucking slow. And I don't know, man. He's got a lot of training to do in cardio if he's going to keep up with DC. I mean, he's going to probably attempt to put him through the first 5-minute round of hell, and just beat the shit out of the guy. I don't know, maybe make it through partway of 2, swinging, but I don't see much coming out of him within such a short span, between now and November 3rd.
I can't really see a world in which Derek Lewis can beat DC on a regular basis. I think that he can catch him. Like you said, he can catch anyone, but DC's game is so much more well-rounded than Derek Lewis's. I think it's really apparent. We're
talking one of the best fighters ever, possibly, and Derek Lewis is, let's be honest, he's a middle card filler of the heavyweight division because there's not a lot of good heavyweights.
Yeah.
In this time and moment, not cutting him loose. Again, a guy like that, Roy Nelson survived in the UFC for years with that fucking hook, but I just feel like there's a limit. Roy never made it to the championship win, but maybe Derek Lewis gets lucky.
He was on the ground, but he refused to do it. That was a mind state problem.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. So how is Derek on the ground? He was striking Volkov. I'm trying to remember the last fight
he had a bunch of failed takedown attempts in this match. It was bad. Every attempt that he made was stuffed immediately, and it was just it was like watching a video game. You've seen UFC, the video game, where somebody takes it and they just fall on their face. That's how Derek Lewis was making these takedown attempts.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. But a lot of stuff happens in MMA that I don't see happening. So I'm excited to see that.
Who knows, man? It's a big risk for DC. I mean, if God forbid he fucking loses to Derek Lewis, you're talking the rematch with Jones, and he's risking that. And I mean, if Brock ever gets cleared all the way, from USADA, then fucking the Brock match, that's going to be a huge number generator. So yeah, but maybe this is in preparation for Brock. He hasn't faced somebody this big in a long, long time, since the Grand Prix days where he won the heavyweight, which he's undefeated in the heavyweight division. So that's another thing going for DC. But, man, it's a risk. But I got confidence in him, I guess.
Have you seen John Jones with the powerlifting photos, what he would look like at heavyweight?
Oh, God, yeah, dude. Yeah.
I don't think he's stopping him. I think that he does better at heavyweight than he does at lightweight.
I feel I don't know, man. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if he's going to be as fast, if he's going to be the same Jones, but I mean, he's going to be fucking...
And that is his strength. If he's sacrificing speed, that's one of his biggest strengths. But, it's not just speed, it's accuracy. It was the same thing with Anderson Silva. Anderson was fast, but if you watch that face kick, it wasn't that lightning fast. It was just right on point. It's just exactly where it needs to be.
The
and
delivery.
The same thing.
The spider, man. Yeah, the delivery of that. Yeah. Oh. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see. I love John Jones, so I got a bias there. Regardless of all the trouble, all the bullshit, I can't wait to see him return. Apparently, he's booked to fight Alexander Gustafsson again. Gustafsson? I always fuck his name up.
So consider that one of the great fights of all time. And I remember as a John Jones fan thinking when that went to decision, oh no, Jones lost.
Everybody did. But they gave it to Jones. Yeah. We're gonna see, man. We're gonna see how this goes. I don't know.
It's but if you get me started, man, I could go for hours. So you better be careful, man. You better be careful and waste your afternoon.
Man, I'm excited to see it. I think that's February 23rd they're scheduled for. It's probably gonna be the main event. Everybody's been looking forward to Jones. He's a fucking fan favorite. I don't know, man. We'll talk more about that. We'll have to do another breakdown for that fight coming up. The next fight, Dominic Reyes, the Devastator, really proved himself. He continued on. He's 10-0 now. He put down a veteran, OSP, and this was a good match. I feel like it was these guys were equal and both careful because they both knew that they were fighting somebody who was dangerous. Mm-hmm. And OSP, I feel like OSP is not the vintage OSP that we're used to anymore. And it comes with reason. You got to be careful, and you're getting towards the end of your career. And he's facing a young gun, and man, I mean, Dominic he outclassed him, and I think we got a future main headliner right here. I think Dominic Reyes is just gonna keep going and going, and I think we're looking at our future champion. Wow,
that's a bold statement.
I know with John Jones and DC running around, I know that's crazy, but I feel like he just needs to focus more.
I mean,
he's unbeaten, but that doesn't mean shit anymore. Granted that Khabib is somehow
double digits. That's
yeah, but some guy can come along and just change his whole mood and mindset. As we've seen with Francis Ngannou was undefeated for a little bit.
Can we talk about the relativity though with this performance? Because if you look at OSP and his last few fights, all right, OSP has never really performed any spectacular acts.
Yes.
2 of his 3 or 4 last fights, he snuck in that amazing Von Preux choke, which clearly which he is extremely talented at.
Yes,
and
that's his card.
Hard at that. But he's never. He has an unorthodox style that he not relies on, but that really does help him. But he's never really done anything spectacular in the octagon. He's just a well-rounded fighter who's going on a good run. I would never use the word overrated with a world-class talent like him, but I think the last performance kind of showed when they do know what to expect. And I'm not going to let you get that Von Preux choke, and I'm not going to I guess he was on a good run, and I think maybe this exposed his talent level a little bit. He's also maybe the most stoned-looking sober person in the UFC. He's got those lazy Godzuki eyes.
Yeah,
the eyebrows are tilted back a little bit.
Yeah, like somebody just had to guide him to the ring. Like, yeah, just do your thing, man. And he's like, all right.
And I don't know how you look like that before a fight, but I just don't think that. I think that his record doesn't necessarily reflect his skill talent. This run he's on. Skill level.
True. And he's a name that's been around for a long time, so I think that also gets him by. Not to cut him down, but OSP, I just feel like it's just he was around for the golden era, and now he's still lingered around. The first fan pop, of the last decade for the UFC. I feel like he was just one of the names that stuck around. But man, I think it's gonna be soon that we're gonna see him. Not be in the UFC, at least. He might make his way to Bellator. They scoop up a lot of these guys, and they do better there sometimes.
He's great there. It's important to note, we're talking about literally the 99.99% fighters, and this guy's less spectacular than that guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? OSP is still world class, and I'm sure he's amazing. He can be a champ over in Bellator, I feel like.
Anybody outside of CM Punk coming to the UFC, anybody in the UFC honestly deserves that respect because they are, in the main spotlight. They earn their way to get there for the most part, and I mean, you take these guys and put them in any of these minor, statewide MMA leagues, and they would just kill any of their champions. It's just night and day difference, the talent level here. These are definitely, you definitely not cutting down the talent here.
Do you think that's going to remain the case? Because it hasn't always been the case, actually. Well, in Pride, actually, anytime they sent their guys over here, we usually got them. But do you think that's always going to be the case? Look at Rory McDonald in Bellator.
I know.
I don't think so either. And I think real soon it's going to equal out. Khabib, take a look at Khabib, man, if he goes over.
Dude, we were gonna. Oh man, let's touch on that later. There's a possibility of that. Who knows, man? It'd be crazy if Khabib goes. That could start a wave. That could start a wave of some of the greatest fighters from the UFC deciding maybe I'll go over there and see how my chances are. I'm not being treated right here. I'm not one of the golden boys of the fucking division, so I'm not. I don't think I have a future. And I think there's a lot of fighters that would take that chance.
And well, you know what that's going to do? If that does happen and it floods into a company like Bellator, another one is going to spring up. There's going to be a D league. There's going to be an even lower league that's going to come up. And there's Elite XC and Ryzen and some of these fight organizations are still around. But I bet that there will be a new up and coming one if Bellator fills out like you just described.
Oh man, it's my hope because I'm sick of like this whole, not to put it alongside pro wrestling, but it's like they got the WWF, WWE, whatever like thing going on where they have the monopoly right now at the UFC, and it's like Bellator starting to come up to where they're finally getting, again, they're getting the talent, they've got, the marketing. It's looking like a product. Jesse said they should change their name, and he's not the first I've heard say that, and it makes sense. You can't tell what it is.
Just from an advertising standpoint, it's not the best. Like, what's a Bellator? Like,
yeah.
Do you think they're too deep to change it at this point? Because they have it established. That is,
you can always rebrand.
I don't know, man. Jordan might be right because it's like everybody knows the Bellator name now.
What they'd have to do is like they'd have to pick something that's like understandable to like anyone who, like, if you said what it was, they knew it meant like
recognizable,
comparable to the UFC.
Yeah, totally.
Like the XFL, like that kind of shit. And it'd have to be like a big ramp up to it. Like it'd have to be, we're changing our name. What's it gonna be? Here, vote on these names, and then they pick like a different one anyway. Like it's got to be some crazy thing, or they got to like clap back at Wendy's and like fucking, start some Twitter beef and then change their name. They got that way they can like ramp up to it as like a big marketing thing. That's how I say they go.
Yeah. We'll be curious to see, man, because I really do think we're going to see Bellator grow as the competition for the UFC. And, unless the UFC tries to buy their asses out, who knows? Money does talk, and they could pull the Vince McMahon and just buy them out and shut that shit down. Or try to attempt to keep...
If that is going to happen with Coker in charge.
True. Yeah. It's a different operation there. After the sell.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much Coker has to do with that. I guess I just mean the current administration, because I feel like that would have happened by now with the current administration.
On the uprise of this.
There's no benefit to Bellator to do, or there's no benefit to the consumer for them to do that, because UFC's already kind of like a huge name that can do whatever the fuck it wants, regardless of what the fans want. And if they took in Bellator, then there'd be no competition, really.
That's what UFC has done in the past. They absorbed Pride, but only after Pride had died, because Pride was bigger than UFC.
It was huge.
And they could probably get it cheaper.
The rule sets were what made it, bigger. I feel like, and internationally, it was a lot bigger. In Japan, it was just the shit.
I'd love to see who approached who.
Yeah, that is a good. That is a good idea. Pride, I feel like should still be around, man. It's just like that's the real fucking crazy combat. But
it was the golden age, but we could never recreate it. We've gone too far past.
Yeah, today with all the head traumas and shit like that, it would just they would never let that.
The brutal rules for sure, but just specifically, it was before mixed martial arts became what it is now, which is blended martial arts. It used to be a karate guy versus a sumo wresler.
What art was better. That's really why it started.
I remember 15 years ago, as a teenager, watching a Manuel Yarborough fight Daiju Takase, and literally a 400-pound sumo fighting a 145-pound. I don't know what he was, a pro wrestler, and I'll never forget that shit. And it could never happen again. It's come too far. I think that you yearn for a golden age, because I do.
Yeah.
But, what do you think? Now the best time to be a fight fan? Because a lot of people say that.
Oh, yes.
Well, before we move on from UFC buying Pride, they bought it for just under $70 million back in 2007, I believe.
Incorporated it, and then those the people who were in charge then, the Flying Wallenda brothers, or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Flying Wallendas
sold it for some billions. So.
Yeah.
That's still a good chunk of change. I mean, if you were saying like it was at the point where it was dying, like.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and especially because MMA wasn't what it is today. I mean, it really only blew Probably Anderson Silva and then Ronda Rousey.
I was gonna say the 2000s is when UFC really finally started to make their upcome again. They were gonna die. They were gonna go bankrupt and get fucked. But luckily they came back in the early 2000s with, the Forrest Griffin. The original Ultimate Fighter was on the brink of that.
That was the turning point. You're right about that.
Yeah, and there was a good amount of talent, but not just talent with charisma at that time. You had Forrest Griffin was an ex-fucking Nevada cop. There was backstories to these fucking people that you were knowing, and that was the first time you actually got to learn about the people a little more. And I think that's something they need to do more. I always say this. I think that when we start to realize these people are humans and not just fighting fucking machines, that gives us more to love about them.
Totally. That's how you get emotionally invested. This trash talk environment bullshit is not getting me emotionally invested. I feel like I'm watching a fucking slam contest. I feel like I'm watching something juvenile and unprofessional.
It's like the old episodes of Yo Mama.
Oh God.
I'm watching Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out, and I want to be watching grown fucking men act like adults. And by the way, it's just screaming, begging for authenticity. By the way, that's why we like him, because Conor is actually authentic in that environment. And then now
I think a lot of people are laughing at it instead of with it, though.
Yeah,
nowadays
it's something in the juvenile brain.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's good. That's what I think. 'Cause people watch it and they have a reaction to it, and I just don't like it. I wish it was more authentic. And right now, the supply and demand, the supply of authenticity is very low. So if I love Derek Lewis. Because he decides not to trash talk.
Balls are hot, Joe.
Dude, everyone's going to talk about him. He's like, listen, I'm not going to act like a fool. I'm just going to have a fucking one-liner ready to go for anything. And he's killing it. He's gonna have an Instagram following that he'll monetize one day, or maybe has.
Yeah, hopefully.
His Instagram is huge. Joe Rogan is constantly fucking telling people on his show to go to Derek Lewis's Instagram because he's the funniest social media.
Authentic.
He's hilarious.
But he's still winning by those rules, today's modern rules. So
Yeah.
The cult of personality, though, has always been a standout sort of thing in any sport. If you think about it, think about Marshawn Lynch and calling people out in football and shit. There's and even outside the ring, think about way back with Muhammad Ali. There's always if someone says something controversial for that time, that's where people are going to focus, and it seems to go hand in hand with sports for some reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of comparison between what Muhammad Ali did and what Conor does. But again, both of those people, I feel, are very authentic. It didn't cause all of the
they're doing it authentically, but then it's being exploited for advertising purposes and marketing and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that's bad for the sport.
Yes, I do.
It's a cheap way to go.
I do too. And this is a good transition point.
It's not necessarily because people would say, oh, well, that's where the money is. I disagree with that. I think if you got more creative and you did work that out and try to do something more professional, create more value, I think you could do better. That's
more in-depth interviews with the people or something.
Series, media, trying to up their media streaming service. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass, but
Hey, they don't pay us for this. Don't do too much work now.
I was going to say that's a good transition to the next fight. Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis. And I feel obviously we know Ferguson. Huh?
Is that a rough transition to a rough fight?
Oh, yeah, I was going to, yeah. Well, what I was thinking, my perspective on it was I was thinking about Tony Ferguson's post-fight. He was really fucking cocky and immediately went to just calling McGregor McNugget, calling him out. The first thing, ripping the mic from Joe Rogan. And I was thinking, it looked like in his eyes that he was sitting there amping himself up to do this so that he can, put his name out there more. He's late on the train trying to copy the McGregor fucking mentality. And it doesn't feel authentic to me at all.
Not only does it not feel authentic, but you can see the look in his eye. Like you said, you see him turn it on. He grabs the mic and then he pauses for a second to work up the speech that he's forcing himself to do. And you can't fault him, but you can fault the environment which the fans and more importantly the UFC have kind of cultivated.
Yeah, and man, it was disappointing.
You're saying that he's overthinking the shit talking. It's I got to come up with something, man. You're You're a mean dude. I don't fuck with you.
McNugget
Fuck.
though. The
That was
McNugget
shitty.
pissed me off,
McNugget.
man.
There you go. There's a slam.
He straight up grabbed the mic and goes, "McNugget, I'm gonna kick your ass!" Like screaming, like, and I was just like, "Dude, calm down, bro. I understand you just won, but you won by by Pettis having to be called off by his coach. Like, he wanted to keep fighting, and his coach was like, nah. Duke Rufus said, nah, you're not fighting anymore. He fucking broke his hand, beating the shit out of Ferguson on the ground. So." I wanted to see, Jordan, what do you think the outcome would have been at the fight if we had gotten that extra round?
Oh, it wouldn't have been any different. I feel like, and this isn't faulting Pettis at all, I feel like Pettis was just in his body language was ready to give up. We've seen plenty of fighters, especially fighters with as many weapons as Pettis have, go on to fight with a broken whatever. We've seen John Jones do it. We've seen Demetrius do it. The pace that Tony was putting on Pettis at the end of that round was so intense and incredible. I think that it broke his will. In fact, that may have been the heaviest, most devastating pace ever, comparable only to Khabib, but it was striking. You know how Nick puts that pace on you and he just won't let you take a breath?
Yeah.
Well, Nick's popped like 60% power shots. Ferguson does the same thing, but he's throwing 98% power into every shot. I don't know how he does it.
He was applying the pressure the whole fight. That was the one thing I will say, that got him the definite decision, like, regardless, probably. But, man, I feel like Pettis was still comfortable enough that he was throwing out some of those crazy handstand kicks and just spin kicks, wheel kicks. I don't know, man. I see where you're saying, like, you feel like he was about to give up, but at the same time, I feel like he could have just pulled out some fucking craziness and went to turn it again. There was, as far as dominance in the fight,
I think he has the ability to knock out anyone with two in hands. If he throws that jumping, fence kick just right.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that was wild. But Ferguson also did fucking, I don't know if you saw that. He did a little fucking off the fucking fence right hand. It was pretty fucking cool. Like I felt like that was homage because like Pettis is known for that shit. So he's like, yeah, bitch, bah.
Yeah, totally. I don't think that Pettis was ready to give up. I just think that it played a factor, and I saw something in his body language that I don't usually see with Pettis.
Yeah, true. I'll say it almost, I don't want to say fear, but it looked like something like it for a moment or two where he was really cornered and the pressure was like putting him tight against the cage. But man, fucking probably my favorite fight of the night. I don't know about you. I think this was my favorite fight of the night. It was fucking bloody massacre and just two dudes that have amazing talent put up against each other.
Totally. I mean, the whole night was amazing. They were all 10s. They really were.
Yeah.
But the main event was what I was the most excited about, and what everyone's talking about, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Khabib versus Conor, it's just been so long in the works. Since Conor, you could say Conor's been preparing for this at least mentally for a year. This has been talked about for a long time. Right after the Floyd fight, they were thinking about it. But at the same time, Conor's coming on a 2-year absence from the octagon, I believe.
Yeah, he's thinking about it, but he's thinking about it while he's outside of the octagon and getting that ring rust.
Yeah, and to come back and not have like how boxing does like a tune-up fight, to just go straight in against, I don't know, the killer of all killers in your league. I don't know if that's a smart move.
Guys, that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like someone who has a lot of talent coming off of 2 years versus a killer who's in his prime, who fights regularly and who's been fighting wild animals since he was a child.
Yes. And that's bears, people.
That's what the fight, if you would have showed that and explained that, I would go, yeah, that looks about right.
Yeah. And I feel like he tried so hard to get in Khabib's head, and it ended up being a reversal. I feel like he went into that match where his head was occupied by just knowing that he was facing somebody who was unpenetrable. Somebody that he could not just beat with that mental game that he's, fucking destroyed Aldo with. He's just taking down people with over and over again.
There's a subreddit called Justice Served that I frequent, and the shit talking from Conor cut together with the actual fight. It was posted up on Justice Served, and it was just it was a perfect juxtaposition of like Conor talking shit and then getting his ass kicked.
Oh no, that's brutal. So yeah, I mean, I feel like Conor. Did you listen to the interview with Joe Rogan and his coach Kavanaugh?
Yes, I loved it. I listened to that shit and I really I enjoyed it. Also for the nutritional factor of I didn't realize how deep it really got to like how these fighters really need to eat to be optimal with their diet and regime for working out. Like I was fascinated with that. Side note, sorry to like
talking about sugars. I had never heard that before. But specifically when he talked about the lack of offensiveness, how they were on the defensive, and I think that's the problem is he didn't uncork his patented left hand right in the first fucking few seconds like he did with Aldo. That's what he did with Aldo. He went in there and he knocked him out. Khabib, who was way too apprehensive. Because Khabib shot from fucking a mile out. That's the thing about Khabib.
Yes.
So you got to be. I mean, I don't know how you beat him, but the only thing I can think of is a knee in on the takedown, or just uncorking that left at an opportune time. And Conor didn't really do either. His plan was to take the first round off. I think that's a terrible plan. I think that's an awful.
Yes, I was gonna say that. That was the coach's plan. I believe that was his idea. Kavanaugh wanted him to just take it easy and have a really well game plan for the actual takedown defense, because they knew going in that Khabib was going to be trying over and over again. And I gotta say, Conor did that better than I was expecting. I don't know about you. I thought Conor held up on the takedown defense pretty good in that first round, especially for what I was expecting.
But it's inevitable. That's the thing about Khabib. It's like, okay, so you took all this time and you completely switched your training regimen to defend the takedown. And now it takes me a minute and 40 seconds to take you down instead of 40 seconds. So what have you really done there? I think if you're Conor, you need to think every round starts on the feet, and I'm going to make this guy pay when he comes in to take me down. I'm not going to try to wrestle him and stuff the takedown. It's a terrible idea. I'm going to throw the knee every time and try to knock him out. And I have 5 tries because every round starts on the feet. Hopefully I'll get up and get stood up. That was the approach that I would do for that matchup. I think any other game plan plays into Khabib's strengths.
Yeah, and I think that they took the too offensive line. Like, they were just trying to be too offensive about it with no fucking actual or too defensive rather, and no offense. Like there was no return there. Like, and I feel like that's what gave him the confidence.
And he had a little success.
Yeah.
Why didn't he do that in the past?
Exactly. What was that? Like he had the turnaround for a moment, and people were like, "Oh shit, there's a light of shadow," But he just fell into the place again, and Khabib just started cornering again and just mauling. And that's what led to that.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You'll tie up your forearms, and that'll translate to a takedown.
Man, who do you think, granted, after all the bullshit after the event, Khabib could be looking at, anywhere from a year to 18 months of a suspension, but granted,
I thought he only had like a 10-day suspension.
That's while the actual investigation's going on. We're going to get the final notice soon enough. On top of that, I mean, shit, there's so much. This is a loaded subject right here. How fucked up is it? I know we were talking before the show. Conor McGregor's got his purse. Khabib his purse is up in the air right now, and the state of Nevada's athletic commission is actually contemplating what percentage they want to give him, if any, of his own purse because of that.
Yeah, that's really. I don't know.
Kind of fucked up.
$2 million, man. We're not talking like $100 grand.
Didn't he win it when he won the fight?
Yeah, but to see the shenanigans in a public place, it was a place sanctioned by the athletic commission. It gets a little more complicated.
But that's taking someone's money from them. If they want to charge him a fine afterward,
besides that,
okay.
Conor McGregor got his purse.
Like if you ripped off the pen from the chain at the bank, and they're like, actually, you're only getting $15 instead of $20.
Yeah,
that's like
you for that shit
in America.
Be like, no, you get your 20, and then you send your bill for the chain.
Yeah, but the favoritism is insane. I mean, Conor, obviously is somewhat responsible for instigating this when we talk about the Dolly situation that occurred forever ago, where, I mean, come on, the provocation of talking about his father.
All right, here's the thing. People didn't like the sucker punches. That's what people didn't like. It was bullshit.
But
and punched a professional athlete. But you can't. I don't like when everyone's comparing this and that. They need to be charged separately. Khabib shouldn't have his purse taken if someone assaulted Conor. That should be dealt with separately. Conor said not to press charges. All right, let him the fuck go. Conor should have gotten in way more trouble for what he did with the dolly. It was a fucked up thing, man.
Could have fucking
Why does he have to let him off the hook? It's because he cooperates. They can count on him. It's the same reason that Conor didn't press charges against Khabib's guy, because he plays the game and he fucking gets it. And I respect that about him. But here's the thing. If I can drop just my one opinion about this whole relationship between these two, is that they come from two totally different worlds and neither understand each other properly. In Khabib's
versus potatoes. It's totally different.
Vodka versus whiskey.
They're two different, very tough environments, and that's the thing, is you put them together and there's some corrosiveness.
It's the values that's the issue. So in America, and make no mistake, Conor has Irish descent, but he is an American through and through, and that's what he acts like. In America, things like integrity, things like personal pride, that shit's out the window, man. That's why this country's great, because you can flip off a billionaire and be like, fuck you, suck my D. But where Khabib comes from, they take that shit super fucking seriously.
Yeah.
Conor shouldn't have been surprised that he was sucker punched by a thug, because that's who he was talking to. And Khabib needs to understand, you're not in Dagestan. You're in America. That's how we do it here. You can play or you can't play. So they're equally ignorant and they're equally to blame, I feel. And they come from two totally different worlds, and they don't understand that.
Very volatile.
It's funny because both of them are
English isn't his first language, so it's not like he can really articulate how fucked up it was. We learned how fucked up it was when there was a brawl.
Yes, yeah, and I feel like it's so funny that they both come from such respectful, like, ideal cultures, and then they don't realize how they're disrespecting each other in a very stern way.
Yeah, no, that's right.
You know,
Khabib was not being a good guest, and Conor was very ignorant and insensitive to Khabib's culture.
Exactly, man, and and furthermore, man,
Conor doesn't care. He's just talking shit. Like, he's doing like exactly what you said. Fuck you. Fuck your mom. Fuck your dad. Fuck your dog.
Who the fuck is that guy?
If you're gonna do that, then expect to keep your hands up.
Ooh, while we're talking about this, okay, do either of you guys know that during the fight, I believe it was like the third or something, like the end of the third round, Conor goes, "It's just business" to Khabib as the fight's ending, as the round ends, and Khabib goes, "I guess so."
What did he say?
Did you catch that Conor had said to Khabib as the third round was ending? He goes, "It's just business, mate," and Khabib goes, "I guess so."
I guess.
Oh, I guess.
What do you think that means? Like, this is highly documented. Like, we can't show the footage. I can't pull it up. We'll get fucking pulled. But yes, you can look at this up right now. If you look it up, you can hear Conor say it.
Like a response, like he wasn't really thinking about what he said in response.
There's two points of view.
Language. Keep in mind, it's his second language. Did he just fire off a concise response? Does "guess so" mean "suck my dick" in Russian?
Who knows?
Yeah, or it could just be like that's what you fucking think.
Especially, especially the body language. He didn't hear him right away. Conor didn't hear the response, so he went around the ref again, and he goes like, "I guess so." Like, so he made sure the body language was real stern with that. But at the same time, Conor was holding the gloves a little bit too much too, and I noticed that was something that was argued. So I don't know if it was talking about that.
Wrapping his toe to try to get stood up. Conor cheated like a motherfucker.
Yes.
As soon as he started getting, if I remember correctly.
He got sucker punched a couple times.
He held the gloves constantly.
Correctly. At the end of the third, after he was having some success, and then he got put up against the fence and was demoralized again. He started grabbing the fence. He started grabbing the gloves. He got taken down. He hooked his toe. Herb Dean slapped out his toe. He hooked it again. He was trying to get stood up.
Yep.
You get a point taken. You get a warning, and Herb Dean wasn't going to do that. That's why I'm so glad they had him ref, you guys. If they had someone else, Conor would have won that fight. If they had
it sucks that you can game it that way too.
Yeah.
He had plenty of chances to stand him up, and he didn't because he understands the ground game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let
and then
them
it's
act
just
out.
a waste of Conor's time and energy while he gets his face pounded on the ground.
Yeah,
because it's like if you're just gonna sit there and try and rap so that you get stood back up, it's like you're gonna sit there and take hits if you have
there's no worse place to be in the UFC than under.
Yeah, right.
So in projection, who do you think is going to be the next competition for Khabib right now?
Who do you have at that weight class? I'm horrible with weight classes. I've seen every goddamn fight, but the two things I suck at are event numbers.
You could put Ferguson in there. I mean, I don't see that happening. Ferguson, obviously, we're not going to put Nate Diaz in there. Nate Diaz needs to fight Conor, especially now that we're talking Dustin Poirier is reported as injured. Now that card's been changed. I don't know, man. I think Conor is going to end up fighting Diaz, so that's going to take that out. I think Khabib is just going to be fucked with the suspension until we figure out who the next alpha male is that can try to step him. I just don't think that Conor deserves a rematch right now after how one-sided it was.
You know, I just kind of something clicked in my head. Khabib's out. He's going to Bellator. He's got so much pride, and he's so bullheaded. Dana White doesn't put up with that shit. It's the same reason Ben Askren never made it to the UFC. I think Khabib's real colors have shown. I think the UFC offended him, and I don't think they knew that they deeply offended him. You mentioned him going to Bellator. I bet that's going to happen. I'm putting my prognostic on the Slacker MMA update. Outside of the UFC.
Just to give the listeners an idea, if you don't know what we're talking about, 50 Cent has tweeted out at Khabib. He said he will offer him $2 million to come over to Bellator tonight. I'm sure it won't happen tonight if it does at all. But $2 million to come over and fight. And he said he would deal with Dana White and his contract later. You know, and Khabib at first gave him a little friction. He said, you know, you're a great man. I offer you to come over to Dakistan and I'll show you what a real man is, where real men come from. And at the end he said, send me location. That's it. So I mean, you could be very well right. Khabib could go over there, get some money, and end up being their fucking star and helping them out.
I don't see them turning this around and Khabib as the type of person to go, all right, we had our big differences, let's do a win-win, and then Dana coming up with a deal that'll suffice there. So I don't know. I wish the best for Habib wherever he goes.
I've seen a lot of kebabs being thrown around.
No, I think it's Habib, but I always say Khabib. I think if you're American, you should say Khabib, but Habib corrected DC on the fucking on an interview.
Like Royce Gracie, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You say Joyce.
Stipe.
Yeah. Stipe.
Well, I will say
then
that
he
the
shows up and
UFC
beats
has
our
opened
ass.
me up to many more cultural last names.
And not to mention, while we're talking about Stipe, how pissed that dude is that DC is going to defend against fucking like Derek Lewis instead of giving him a rematch. That's fucked up. I got to say, I'm on Stipe's side for that.
I agree. Stipe never marketed himself properly, and I think that he's the best heavyweight of all time, barring DC's next few performances. Because Stipe, it's the exact opposite of, well, I mean, it's in a similar vein to OSP. Stipe never did anything spectacular, but in the heavyweight division, you don't need to be spectacular. You need to be smart, and you need to have good striking defense. And I'm not talking about Wing Chun striking defense. I'm talking about just being fucking smart and knowing where you are in the octagon, knowing the other guy's gas tank, knowing your gas tank. It's a fucking mental. And that's why I think Stipe is the greatest. But DC's got such an amazing mental game. I'm sure he's going to go on to prove me wrong. But I love Stipe, man. He's the shit.
It's going to be interesting to see, and I hope Stipe gets another chance, whether it's against, you know, DC, Lewis, Brock Lesnar, whoever the fuck the champion is at the time. I'm hoping he rebounds and gets that second championship run. Because, he's the All-American when I think about the UFC heavyweight division. I think, you know, he's a fucking firefighter. He's just a regular dude that kept his job and still is the heavyweight champion of the world. And the most brutal fighting fucking circuit there is.
Yeah, you're right. And, I just think that he was always beating people who I was always betting against him until I learned my lesson. You know, I didn't think he was going to beat Overeem. I was on on Francis that night, man. For
Me
sure,
too.
I thought.
Me too.
But again,
we cast Ngannou as the winner too. We were like, I don't think Stipe is going to survive. Proved us fucking wrong.
Putting a lot of money on Ngannou that night. Vegas won big on Stipe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. It's no surprise that they need to recapitalize on that guy. I feel like give him the next title shot after DC's nightmare. You know, fucking.
What are you gonna show him? Like sitting there making fucking Firehouse chili? Like he's not funny like Derek Lewis. He's not. He doesn't have the trash talking gene or the forced trash talking.
He's too
skills.
nice.
So You know what I mean? Like, why book him?
Yeah, I feel you as far as the UFC is concerned, but I mean, shit, you can't discredit again, like we were just talking, the most dominant UFC heavyweight champion of all time throughout.
Really? That's fucking unfair, man. It's not his fault. He's a fighter.
Yeah. Hopefully, we don't see him switch to the fake shit talking mentality like that we see a lot of fighters try to fall into.
It's a shame. If you look at Colby's old interviews, you know, Colby Covington, I can't fucking stand that guy. I cannot stand him. And it's funny because I totally get what he's doing, but I still buy into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like going up to Trump and putting the belt on his desk and all that shit. Like, I get it. It's inflammatory. It's hilarious. But for some reason, it still gets under my skin. But if you go to his old interviews, he's just a normal ass, respectful fucking guy, just like talking like, I need to improve my game. And then one day he flips the switch and he turns on this bullshit mentality.
This is who I'm gonna be. Yeah.
But God bless him. At least he's doing something. That's the thing, man. It's never a good idea to just hop on the band. When is it a good idea to hop on the bandwagon?
You're too
you gotta
late.
be you know?
You're too late, man. If there's a bandwagon, you're too late.
Yeah,
you gotta wait for that shit to die and come back, right? You're right.
Then it's retro, technically.
We need like a one-liner Spartan motherfucker. Like you know what I mean? You need someone who doesn't talk. You need something
I was just gonna say that. We need a fucking dude to come up and he just because his post-octagon interview is just. And then he walks
just
away.
Him staring Joe down.
Staring and shaking at Joe, and then just walks away every time. Even when he wins the championship, just...
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
you gotta be original.
Does he fucking talk? I need to know!
he just shakes his head or like shakes a no. It's like,
never shows up to a press conference.
No.
Never.
Every ref stoppage, he's trying to get around the ref to murder the guy. And then he never
He's
does
got a knife!
And then he just leaves. He just walks out the fire exit.
He doesn't show up for like his 13th championship defense. He just doesn't show up. They're like, wait. And the music plays and he's gone. He's like, wait, huh? What?
He's demanding that we do it in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
That means business, dude. I'm telling you, this is the next big one.
We'll talk about this after. Transition. You had some interesting perspectives on CBD that relate to injuries.
Well, to give our audience a little bit of perspective, Jordan does a podcast called GrowCast. Wildly successful. Has talked to many of the big names in the cannabis community, including Big Mike. There's some upcoming ones I don't want to spoil that you told me about. So you'll have to tune into his show to also hear those. But just wanted to give that little introduction.
Way to tease him.
Definitely. I appreciate it. You guys have been collaborating with me for a while, so it's been fun working with you guys. But yeah, I've been super fortunate to get some of the biggest names in the cannabis industry. I don't know about a wild success. That's very flattering. Thank you. But I
like to throw adjectives in there. You know, I sprinkle it.
So yeah, that's wordplay, man. That's why you get the big bucks. So listen, I've had super long with talking about CBD and the benefits of CBD. It's insane the amount of head trauma that can be repaired, really, and let alone the antipsychotic properties, the recovery properties, the anti-inflammatory properties. Basically, this is what athletes need is this CBD, and it's a shame that people like Nick Diaz getting suspended for marijuana. Supposedly, that pen he was smoking was CBD. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what he claimed. So that's fucking bullshit. They're basically it's basically an act of ignorance and extreme discompassion or lack of compassion, where you're denying fighters and athletes this medicine that we're now learning is good for traumatic brain injury, one of the few things that is good for traumatic brain injury. So all this is mulling over, and I'm doing all these interviews, and it comes up every once in a while. Well, this guy that I'm interviewing for a completely unrelated topic, he's a full organic. He grows using like this fish manure system. It's called aquaponics. It's this incredible organic system. He's a freaking genius. And then he goes, yeah, I'm working with a Canadian pharmaceutical company to make a traumatic brain injury medication derived from CBD. So here we're not even allowed to, well, we just reclassified CBD here. It's all fucked up. You're not allowed to research it unless you're the government. It's ridiculous. And it's really, really it's evil. It's really,
It's
you can't
gross.
describe it as anything other than evil if a corporation is putting people through head trauma and not allowing them to take medication. So this guy's trying to change everything by making a pill. Maybe these sheep will be more open to a pill than a plant. I don't know why that is, but
We love our pills in this country, that's for sure.
I just hope that it gets in the hands of the athletes, because it's really a shame.
And you might be able to save fucking MMA and football that way, because the CTE and all the other things that come along with those big hits are not good.
Here's the thing, though, NFL might not be around for much longer. To be honest, man, there's a lot going down. I actually have some pretty good knowledge as to why that might be the case. Obviously, just looking at the ratings, that backs up my theory. Is a fresh organization. It's a new organization, and it's really connected with young people. And I feel like they could be on the forefront of legalization and progressive, let's just say, laws when it comes to this sort of thing. NFL is the complete opposite of that, man. It is a dinosaur institution. They dug their heels in with the brain damage thing, and they said, no, they covered it up. They did all the fucking evil white people shit that you can't fucking do. It's just straight up evil. They dig in with the Nike thing. I mean, Kaepernick, whatever you want to believe, they dug in against him. And then look what a company like Nike does, a hip company that made the right move by backing Kaepernick. That was freaking huge. So NFL,
they made a lot of money off of that.
Yeah,
they are maybe the most exploitative. They don't allow it is the most damaging. There is no more damaging activity than being a running back, or more importantly, a lineman in the NFL. And I think they're going to choke themselves out, because no one wants to watch that shit. No one wants to watch that shit, and they're not going to buy their lies anymore. So I'm really hoping that they turn their ship around, or they're going to go down.
Yeah. They got to figure something out. That's for sure.
So
I mean, it's going on. It's all the owners are making tons of money off that shit as well.
Yeah,
it's the owners, and it's still going on.
Way too much money.
There's a great podcast called Reasonable Doubt, and it's with Kaepernick's lawyer is one of the hosts, and all the owners conspired to keep him off of any team because he was causing unrest. It's the classic.
He was blacklisted from the industry.
I don't feel that way about UFC. I like Dana White. I know he's not perfect. He gets a lot of hate. Yes. I just don't get that vibe from UFC, and I think that they can be a shining example in Major League Sports.
I hope so.
You can't cut, especially Dana White, you can't cut that dude short. He took a business that was failing and turned it into a $1 billion fucking industry that here we are just making a fucking podcast talking about it. It's that big of a deal that the people are in love with these people, these characters of real life, you could say. Like, he's done a lot, man. And
understand, he works hard every single day so that you and I can see more fights. And people do not take that shit. They don't appreciate.
Yeah, they don't realize he's at a fight table, multiple times a week trying to come up with the best matchups like possible for fucking, the business and the fans together. Like, the most exciting thing that he could come up with. Like, he's always working on shit even after the sales. Like, it's easy to see that when you see him in the the interviews, and he's very stern and very strict about shit, talking about he'll cut fighters, he'll say he'll cut fighters after they do a shitty performance and stuff like that. But he is the owner of a business that has 500 plus fighters fucking contracted to it. It's a lot to keep up with. You can't keep up with the bullshit.
Well, it'd be nice if they, took the lead and said, "Hey, it's cool. At least if our fighters use CBD. I mean, especially if it's not psychoactive. A lot of people point to the 2014 Farm Bill and say if it's produced from hemp, it's technically not marijuana, and if it has under 0.3% THC, then it's kind of an illegal gray area. So."
Yeah, you can even order that stuff off the internet, but I will tell you, you can learn more at GrowCastPodcast.com or find us on any app. We have a lot of episodes about the science behind cannabis and the many different compounds that are in cannabis and how they work together. There's something called the Entourage Effect. That's a very hot term right now. And what we're learning...
I was always under the understanding that you needed a little bit of THC in order to activate CBD.
In order to maximize it, that's true. But more importantly, all of the cannabinoids. There are some dozens of cannabinoids, some of the ones they're looking at other than CBD now, different types of THC, THCA. THCV, CBG is a big one that's coming up here. Not to mention the terpenes, which are another compound that occurs that supposedly just gives weed its flavor and aroma. Well, now
the old terps.
Science is actually proving that they play an extremely crucial role in cannabis. Big Mike said, imagine that your high is a jet plane. The engines are the cannabinoids, and the terpenes are the flight control system. The engines get you there, but the terpenes decide where you're going to go. So,
okay, that's cool.
Way to look at it. But basically, you got to legalize the whole plant. It would be nice to get them some CBD extract, but you got to legalize the whole plant. And I think that I think it's coming right around the corner.
Well, yeah, there's 60 compounds that make the cannabinoids, and I mean, we started out with just CBD and THC because they're the most dominant of all, and now it's like we're figuring out all these other cannabinoids that actually have individual factors that can do certain things, and that's where the individual treatment's going to come into, man. I feel like we only are touching the icing of the cake with what we could do with all of these extracts.
I agree.
Companies that are starting to use your weed profile to see what's most applicable to you.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that's what Mike wants to do. Big Mike wants to 3D print cannabis oil with all the proper ratios so you can get the same one. Whether it's medicinal or recreational, you can get it in London or Tokyo the exact same way.
That'd be
but
fantastic.
I'm kind of the mind that the plant knows what we're doing and we don't need to refine it. You need to find a strain that works for you and because we're always playing catch up to Mother Nature, man.
Yeah.
And I know it's not perfect the way cannabis is delivered, sometimes it's too strong or a little unruly or whatever.
And you don't want to create like a monoculture either.
Yeah, so I think it's important to just let the plant give it what you want. And we've bred for high THC for so long because it's been illegal, but now people are interested in these other things. So it's taken a really crazy turn. Keep an eye out for the episode on aquaponics with Warren Bravo. Again, GrowCastPodcast.com. Check out everything I'm doing there.
Fantastic. Sounds like a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on, man. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have to do another catch up on the UFC and MMA breakdown soon, and keep this as
one, guys. And I know that you guys are a fan, so it's always good to
hell yeah, man. Yeah. Nobody else better to work with, man. So besides the website and everything, what else do you want to plug? What else? How else can people get to GrowCast and keep up with GrowCast content?
Most importantly, rating and review on iTunes. We love that, but also find us on Instagram at GrowCast. Find my Instagram at Jordan River IG. I'm doing charity poker, playing for all these charities, trying to make some money, help some people. It's a lot of fun to watch. Follow me there. Twitter at GrowCast Podcast. And just give us a download. Check out the cannabis history episodes. Even if you're not a grower, check out GrowCast. There's something there for you.
Awesome. We'll definitely vouch for it. It's an amazing show. It will keep you entertained. And if you guys wanted to check us out, you can check us out on Facebook, American Slacker Podcast. You'll also find the American Slackers group where you can chime in with a bunch of slackers just like yourself. And also check out the Instagram. The art and promos for each and every show are up there, plus a little more. And then the main hub. Our website is AmericanSlackerPodcast.com or ASPodcast.com if you're a lazy fuck.
That's the one I use. So if you want to find us on Twitter and Reddit, it's at AMERSLKR Podcast. We're also on YouTube where you can find this video where you may be watching it right now. Please also rate and review the show on iTunes. 5 stars or nothing. And we always like to say, tell a friend about the show. Create another slacker. That's like how we like to do it.
Hell yeah. And send us an email if you want. AmericanSlackerPodcast@gmail.com. And also search Spotify. You'll find us, American Slacker Podcast. You'll find our show. You'll find all of the artists that we featured on the show, or some that have been on the show, and an awesome playlist that will keep you going through some Monday mornings on maybe a Monday.
And don't forget, you can support our show over at patreon.com/American Slacker Podcast, where we have a bunch of rewards for you and different ways that you can help us, and maybe even put your picture, in our nice little background here if you're willing to donate enough.
He keeps saying that, but he hasn't printed up the people that support us already, so don't get too high hoped on that.
They're not at the right tier. If they give us more,
they don't give us enough support. Now you're going to insult our current patrons. Okay, all right.
Well, I'm not going to have their picture up here like a dictator if they're only giving us $1.
Oh man, Jesus Christ. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us again. It's been a lot of fun. Maybe there'll be more of these.
Anytime.
All right, man. And until next time, hey, we love every one of you. And that's it.
There you go.